Go out with a bang here,
ready?
Director.
I'm Chip Spenning, Executive Director of Franklin County Children's Services, and I have Alice Maddox, who's our CFO, with me here today. And fortunately, we're at last. Actually, I thought that was great, though, to sit and hear about the Veteran Services Commission. There's so many things that I'm going to talk about that are actually similar. You know, the importance of a good plan, the importance of partnerships, the importance of our staff, and what difference they make in the lives of those that we serve. So I thought it was interesting. But before I begin, I'd like to express my appreciation to the commissioners and the administration for their continued support of our agency and the commitment to the families and children that we serve every single day. I know that my staff loves when they hear about the support that you guys provide to our agency, and when you speak highly of the services that the staff provide. As I present our 2019 agency overview, we're going to share some art from our Therapeutic Arts program. This is a program that our youth get the opportunity to participate in, where they can share and express their feelings through art and through music and dance and writing. And so you'll see that interspersed throughout the presentation here, and the youth were really stoked that they got to see their art on TV. So Franklin County Children's Services is mandated by law to protect and care for the county's abused, neglected, and dependent children and troubled youth. And there are really three ways in which we come in contact with families. Either law enforcement brings us a child, in which they give us law for 24 hours, or we request custody from juvenile court, or they work with us on a voluntary basis. Our mission is, through the collaboration with families and communities, we advocate for the safety, permanency, and well-being of each child that we serve in a manner that honors family and culture. Our vision is safety, permanency, and well-being for every child that we serve. It truly takes a community to protect a child, and we know that in children's services we cannot do this work alone. We accomplish this mandate with partnerships with more than 100 agencies and organizations across this community. We also do it with over 800 employees, 500 kinship families, 200 adoptive families, 500 volunteers, mentors, hundreds of community foster parents, and thousands of Franklin County property owners. There are a couple of distinct dynamics that families have that cause them to become involved with child welfare. And often it's either a result from the actions of the parent or caretaker, such as abuse and neglect cases, or the behavior of a child, such as a dependency case. And the last way is a result of really extenuating circumstances for families. We call it families in needs of services. Daily, we serve over 6,000 children on open caseloads. 2/3 of those children are served in their own homes. 1/3 are in substitute placement, which is required for their continued safety. Each year, the agency receives over 31,000 referrals and completes more than 12,000 investigations. The right services to the family is essential to positive outcomes for children. We continue to be one of 11 counties in Ohio that's accredited through the Council on Accreditation. We call it COA. It's an international, independent, not-for-profit human service accrediting organization. COA, the process in going through that can be quite rigorous, but it aligns with our commitment to the highest quality of services and best practice standards to be provided to Franklin County's children and families. Although FCCS continues to be an innovator in child protection in many ways, there's going to be some changes in 2019, specifically that impact our work. One of those is Family First Prevention Services Act, which is an act which Congress passed in February of 2018. This reform changes how child welfare has been funded. Federal dollars represent about 27% of the agency's operations. This new legislation aims to prevent children from entering foster care and allowing federal reimbursement for prevention services. It also seeks to improve the well-being of children that are already in foster care by incentivizing placement and reducing the amount of children in congregate care. Fortunately, the direction of this legislation is consistent with the agency direction. We believe, and the research would support, that by not separating children from their family connections and serving them up front and in the home is going to improve outcomes for families and children and reduce childhood trauma. In 1998, there were 18 counties in Ohio that accepted the risk of receiving federal dollars up front. And the premise was that if you give me dollars up front and I can serve the child in the home without being removed, then you can invest those services. This was a radical change, actually, for the federal government 20 years ago, and the idea that they would share in the cost of prevention services, not just placement. The risk was that if the agency invested in prevention services and we were still needing placement after that, that there was no federal government support for those services. This is what's called the 4E waiver. In Ohio, it's called the Protect Ohio program. The success through that has allowed us to think more proactively and sort of think out of the proverbial box about how do we improve outcomes for kids and families. Through those years, we've learned a lot of lessons, and we've really refined our practice. First, just like with the Veterans Commission, it's the importance of supporting and strengthening our workforce. They're essential to our work. Child welfare is labor intensive. It takes a strong, stable workforce to be the precursor of good quality work. Our staff is a critical component of that foundation. It takes about 2 years for our caseworkers to learn their work and develop good, proficient skills. Child welfare organizations predominantly focus on placement and supportive services. While we realize that this is incredibly important, we also know that we need a balanced approach, and we need to also support our staff as well. When I talked about our vision, we talk about safety, permanency, and well-being for families and children, but it also applies for our staff. When we talk about safety, much of our work that the child welfare worker takes place in the community. You know, it's in the homes of families. It's in the homes of our placement providers. And it's critically important that our staff, when they're doing those face-to-face contacts with families, with somebody they've never met before, that they feel like they have the supports and feel like they're safe in doing their work. When we talk about permanency, what we're talking about, and again, it was mentioned in the Veterans Commission earlier, but we're talking about the importance of retention and stability of our workforce. When our agency is experiencing high turnover, the workers who remain behind get a heavier caseload, and in turn, they leave the agency. So what we see is we see our experienced workforce leaving, and then we'll see a counterbalance problem happen. We know that a good target caseload is 12 to 14 cases. Well, that's manageable, but when we see our caseloads go up and our experienced workers go down, then we kind of get out of whack, and we see we actually spend more dollars on placement and supportive services because we don't have the skilled staff to do the complex case management, so we err on a more conservative approach. So it's incredibly important that we maintain staff. When we focus on well-being, there's a lot of research that looks at secondary trauma in the child welfare caseworker. Children's Service Bureau states that secondary traumatic stress is the stress or the trauma symptoms that professionals may experience when they result from working with children and families who themselves have been traumatized. It also refers to secondary trauma and vicarious trauma. Secondary traumatic stress can impact the quality of services that we provide to our youth and families, and it affects how the agency provides services to those families as well. So not only do we need to ensure that our workers remain mentally and emotionally whole, but we also need to afford them as much as possible good work-life balance. That is to say that the agency can't dominate their entire existence. So we need to consistently try to maintain reasonable caseloads that can be managed in a normal work week. So we've implemented many initiatives to help impact safety, permanency, and well-being of our staff. We've reduced the worker to supervisor ratio at intake. That's our highest risk area. And so in doing so, we want to see that the supervisors are providing more support to the caseworkers. We've implemented a well-being program that provides counseling and on-site support to our workers. We've implemented and improved recruiting, onboarding, orientation of our new staff. We have mentors in place and floating staff to help support and provide coverage for our workers. We've modified our training. It better integrates real-life experience and classroom experience. We have a peer mentoring program for our staff. We've increased administrative support for our caseworkers. What that means is in some of our support areas, we've extended the work hours that those folks work so that they're available for our caseworkers in the late evening when they need help. And we've increased the work hours. Our caseworkers complete 162 hours in their first year, which surpasses the 102 required by the state. These are just a few initiatives that have been implemented by the agency. And we're beginning to see some positive results in stabilizing our staff, but we still have a long way to go, but we're definitely headed in the right direction. We know that strong, competent, experienced staff with low turnover and manageable caseloads will have a significant impact and positive outcomes for our families. Second, it takes a community to protect a child. We fully understand that the family needs to fully understand how to help a family in a stable future, we must partner with the community and provide a holistic approach to serving that family. As I stated, people who come to us in many different circumstances and many different reasons. The families we find, there's never one magic answer to meet their needs. Their life is often messy and complex. But in order to change the trajectory of that life in crisis, we need to enlist the support of the entire community. So community partnerships are essential in our work. The following are examples of some of these partnerships. We partnered with the Educational Service Center to support the objectives so that no child left behind. We recognize the importance to ensure that our youth have the academic support that they need to be successful and ultimately graduate from high school. Through the diversion program with the courts, we provide support to families, linking them to resources sooner and providing better options so that youth can remain in their home and in the community. And this is a great resource for our teens. We partner with the Board of Developmental Disabilities to support families with youth who have the disabilities. We recently joined and established an in-county placement option for children with severe autism that didn't require the parent to relinquish custody. It's a great partnership. We partner with Job and Family Services to ensure that we have shared, our families understand the benefits that they're eligible for and that we help them apply for those benefits, and we're continuing to work with them and see if we can bring some co-located staff on next year. We partner with Adam. We have for a long time. The partnership there around providing community services has been in place for a long time, but with the opioid epidemic, it's definitely intensified our partnerships with them. We partner with Celebrate One, as we know that a child in the first year of life is incredibly vulnerable, and so we partner with them pretty significantly, and we also, our staff shares safe sleep resources throughout the community on a regular basis. We partner with Public Health Department to see that we have nurses available to go see children, particularly high-risk young children in their homes. Family and Children's First Council, we partner with them on multi-system youth. We also have an internal youth advisory board, and that's made up of youth who have been in foster care or currently in foster care, and they're able to share their feelings and experience, but also provide feedback to the agency about how we can improve services for them. And I'd like to note that November was National Adoption Day, or National Adoption Month, and so we are fortunate enough to work with Probate Court, to work with the National Center on Adoption Law Policy, Law School at Capitol, and the Dave Thomas Foundation to finalize the adoption of 12 children and 7 families, and we're on our way to finalize more than 160 adoptions this year. The list could go on, and it's extensive. As I mentioned, we have over 100 organizations that we work with, but it's incredibly important that we partner together to improve the outcomes for family members. Our shared objective is to support families in their current crisis and help them healing from their past situations and hopefully set them up so they're successful in the future. The third most important thing is to have a clear path and a strategic direction. We have found that a strategic direction and a plan helps us focus our efforts to respond efficiently to the changing needs of our community. I'm proud of our guiding principles and our objectives listed in our new strategic plan. Our guiding principles or core values, as we talk about them, we have 4 of them, and we've connected with each guiding principle outcomes that we want to achieve as an agency. The first one is that we are child welfare professionals. The goal is to decrease the vacancy rate for the intake and regional caseworkers. We'd also like to increase the percent of newly hired caseworkers who remain at the agency at least a year. We'd like to integrate racial, ethnic, and equality, inclusion, and cultural humility into all of our work. When we look at we value each child, we'd like to increase the number of teens initially placed in family-like settings. We'd like to increase the number of youth who will remain stable for at least 1 year. And we'd like to decrease the number of maltreatments in care. When we think about we honor families, we'd like to increase the number of youth initially placed with kin, with families. And when we value partnerships, we'd like to build a culture of equity throughout the agency, which will foster positive outcomes for children and strengthen relationships with our partners. The development of strong staff, stable partnerships, and a clear direction will help prepare us for the next chapter of child welfare. The investment into staff and services has yielded some positive results, even in the midst of the opioid epidemic, when we're seeing increased numbers of children that we're serving. The average percent growth of children entering foster care last year was only a modest 1%. That compares to the state average of over 3%. We've been able to achieve these results by providing more in-home wraparound services to families, continuing to allow them access to the alternative response and needs of services, serving more children in family-like placements, and developing partnerships to meet their own individual unique needs. This, coupled with the agency's investment in our workforce, and has helped us be better equipped to deal with the complex changing needs of our families. The lessons we've learned from the 4E waiver over the past 20 years has allowed us to flexibly invest our dollars into prevention services, which has now become the standard that the federal government is expecting for all child welfare agencies across the nation. So we're uniquely prepared and ready to meet this expectation. In closing, I'd like to thank the community for their support. We also continue to receive tremendous support for our Holiday Wish program. Thanks to the generosity of many individuals, donors, companies, we're able to fill the wish list of 6,600 children last year, and it looks like we'll be on pace to exceed that for sure this year as well. It offers another view of what Children's Services does to help families. It's also incredibly heartwarming when individuals who received gifts when they were kids come back now and tell us about the Holiday Wish program, and now they're taking on and supporting other families and giving back, and that's incredibly rewarding. So we've worked with the administration and the Office of Management and Budget to create this budget. We'd ask for your acceptance and approval. I'd like to thank you for your continued support for this work and your leadership.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Great job. I got to tell you, of all the years I've been a county commissioner, we always get the question, what's a county commissioner do? What does the county do? And you have to explain to folks, what does a county commissioner do, and what does Franklin County do, and what is the county all about? And when I get into my explanation of what a county commissioner does and what the county is all about, the first thing that they always understand is they always understand what Franklin County Children's Services is. They always understand that the role of a county commissioner, and they always go right to Children's Services. They don't always understand what Franklin County does in the area of economic development. They don't always understand what Job and Family Services is all about. Let me explain to you what Job and Family Services does. Let me explain to you what they might get what child support enforcement is. They might get something right away when you explain to them what the county does. Oh yeah, I get the Department of Aging. I understand that. You guys work with senior citizens. They always understand what Children's Services is. They always understand what you guys do to help families. They always do. It's the easiest thing. It is the easiest thing to make people understand what you guys do. And a lot of that goes to speak to Children's Services nationwide. It goes to speak to what child support agencies or children's services agencies do across the country. But a lot of it has to do with your agency and what you guys do and the reputation of your agency here in Franklin County. A lot of it goes to speak to what you guys do here and the work that you guys are doing on behalf of families here in Franklin County. And so that's the easiest part of my explanation, because I think my colleague Marilyn can explain to you, and I know Kevin can. I know Mr. Boyce can say that over the last couple of years, he's had to explain to a lot of people what being a county commissioner is all about, because he does it on Facebook a lot. But it's a question, and I think our colleagues across the country and across the state, we get that a lot. What does a county commissioner do? What is it the county government does? And so the very first thing, the easiest thing is always, well, you know what Children's Services is all about, right? Oh yeah, I know what Children's Services is. So you guys are doing something special in the community.
Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate it, and the staff appreciate it. I mean, it's really the staff that does the work, but
no question.
It's tough work, and I have never thought of it from that perspective. I remember 18 years ago, when I became a director and became aware of everything that you guys do. It's unbelievable, and so it kind of puts it into context there.
The community, the work that counties do, what counties do in every county in the country, the magnitude of what county government does is one of the most underappreciated things every county in the
So
country.
diverse, and yet the basic building blocks of what counties do is the same, similar in every county.
Yeah,
And children's services, job and family services are pretty much the same. And people tend to know those safety net programs. Children's services is one everybody knows.
yeah, it seems to me that it's always the one, no matter who I'm talking to. It's the one that people most easily attach themselves to. The one that they most easily, not that it's, that the others aren't all, I'm not saying that children's services is it's just the one that people, I think, pick out as the one that they identify with. I've been with members of Congress who are former county commissioners that say, being a county commissioner is the most rewarding job they've ever had in their life, because it's where where we get work. It's where government actually gets something done. What we do, what we get to do, we have the privilege of doing, is, I think, I don't want to do any other job. I don't want to be any other form of elective office. This is, what we get to do every day, what we have the privilege of doing every day with all of you guys, everybody in this room, is, I think, the best form of government there is. We get the privilege of working with the people that are the most in need in this community of the services that government provides. Why do I want to be, when people ask us to run for other offices, which they've asked both of us to run, why do you want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be the state treasurer of Ohio. What good does that do for anybody?
All right.
I don't want to be I don't want to run for some other office. I mean, what we're doing here, what you guys do and your agency does every day matters to people.
I was asked as recently as Friday about another job, and I said, I need to make a difference.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it.
What we do
Right.
makes a difference.
Yeah,
So,
and what
make
you
a
do
difference.
makes a difference.
These jobs we do every day, these jobs everybody out there, these jobs we do every day make a difference.
Well, what you
No.
do makes a difference in families' lives, and I don't know what's better than that.
thank you.
So keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks
all
for
your
being
support
here.
and leadership and helping us get where we need to go.
Good job.
Thank you.